Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Teach, Sleep, Repeat. My name is Dylan.
And my name is Hayden.
And we're back with season 37, episode 9, series 2.
What? Close enough.
We had a good 2-minute chat before trying to clarify what it was. And we finally looked and we were all wrong.
Yeah, normally you just go, I don't know what episode we're on.
I don't know.
Good
Who
planning.
cares? We're all here for the good times and the good laughs. Hey Hayden.
Hey man.
Last week we did an episode. It went down very well. It always seems to be, and this is the horrible spiral we're going down with this podcast sometimes, but whenever we're a little bit negative, it seems to do quite well.
Yeah.
Because I suppose people just feel that way. They like to have a bit of a moan.
Everyone loves to moan. We all love to moan.
We do. So you can live through our moaning
Yeah.
and then carry on not doing anything about it in your lives.
Brilliant. Should we get on 12 weeks?
Let's do it. Hayden, should you or me start with our week?
Shall you or me do the starting? I'm thinking the you will do the starting. How was your week been, Dylan?
Good. I've got a son.
Ooh,
Who had 1 minute 10 on their radar.
radar.
I don't know what I'm saying. Can you tell that the only thing I wanted to say was that last night we were up every hour and a half with him.
Ooh.
And that was really fun.
Don't worry, that will stop soon.
I don't think it does. Yeah, I'm not going to go on about it, but I just, when you feel, all the parents out there probably feel like, oh, okay, there's not routine because they're very young. He's only 5 weeks old. No routine yet, but last few nights, we kind of know what we're doing. He feeds and then he'll go down for, 3 hours or so. Which some go down for longer. Oh, my baby went down for 8 hours. Oh, I don't care. Shut up and don't tell me, please. I don't want to hear about it. But, he's staying down for about 3 hours. So we can deal with that.
Yeah.
Last night, he fed at 10, half 11, 1, 3, half 4, 6, half 7.
And finally, Victoria Station. Wow.
Tickets, please.
Cool. You're really making me excited.
No, but here's the problem.
For the
Here's
lack of
here's
sleep.
what I said, right? And it was backed up by Lauren's mum. She was saying they make them cute for a reason. Because if they didn't make them cute, I'd have chucked him out the window. He'd be flying out with it. Bye. If he wasn't really, really cute and I didn't love him so much,
Yeah.
in the bin.
He'd be gone.
In the bin.
He'd be
honestly.
gone.
Bye. See you later.
I don't want to do this. Yeah.
I did say before last night, I said, should we just sleep tonight?
Oh.
What's the worst that can happen? Obviously, we didn't.
Yeah.
Our baby needs food. But yeah, he's very sweet.
You're very involved, aren't you?
Oh, I love it.
Not like these old-fashioned dads.
Nice old-fashioned dads. I had a friend message me saying, last thing on Rory, I had a friend message me saying, oh, by the way, we were chatting. He was saying something up on the podcast. Oh, by the way, you really sound like David Brent last week.
David Brent.
I was like, oh, go on. In the bit where it's like, yeah, I'll help out. Not for praise. Don't praise me. Yeah, I'll help out. Not one of those days. Yeah, I do stuff at home. I'm a dad who changes nappies. Yeah.
You've watched way too much on this. I don't know if I'd be complimented or... I don't know if I'd feel complimented because I love David Brent.
I don't think it was a compliment.
Yeah.
I said I'm going to have to splice them together. So, me? Yeah. Dad, work from home, does the nappies.
Being a dad, is that the reason that you forgot since last week's recording to read the bear story, bring the bear story, the story we mentioned last week?
Very quick one. Any new listeners? That I have been given a Goldilocks and Three Bears story, but it's been swapped in with the gherkin and the gorilla. Long story short, it's involved with my class from last year. They remembered. She wanted to write me a story for our baby. I've got it. It's coming. Okay. So the last thing I'm going to say for my week.
It's moved from school to home?
No.
Is it still at school?
It's at home. No, it's
Okay.
at home. It's at home. But then I'm not in my home now. So it's still at home. I think it's 1 week for each transfer. So school to home was a week.
Yeah.
Take another week for it to get here. And then I'll finally
So just
read it.
when nobody cares, next week it'll be ready to
Already
read.
I'm trying to clarify it. Like, there's a gherkin and a gorilla story. No one knows what I'm talking about. But the last thing, something like semi-serious, I suppose, about my week. Just a quick win. We did worry monsters. We got worry monsters in school where they're basically just like, decorated shoe boxes with a hole in.
Yeah.
If you've got a worry, it just allows the children to write it down, put it in the box without, feeling like they're making a thing out of it. It's just something I would recommend to everyone, even if, because they exist in our school, but just making the point of saying them, right, this morning I had a slide up on my screen. It's like, I brought the worry monster into the class. It's right here. You've all got a sheet of paper in front of you. You can read your book. You can write. You can do it. It's a free choice. I'm not going to force you to have worry. You're not worried. Be worried. It's worry monster time. What are you
Write
worried
one
about?
down.
Write one down, kid. But then...
Turns out it was just you filling it up.
It was me. I can't sleep. I'm so worried. But yeah, just a quick win. Because obviously there were some funny ones in there, some not worried at all. One of them just said I was worried because when I came into school this morning, my mum said it was going to be someone else picking me up, and I was like, oh, okay, like that's sweet. But I very quickly said to them, you know that you'll still go home, and they were like, yeah, I know. I just wanted to see my mum. I was like, so that's like low level worry.
Yeah.
But there were also other things that I wouldn't have known otherwise, and things going on the playground, things going on between children, and it just gave me that insight that I could have just floated through, and then come April, that could have been a really big problem because it's not been.
You wouldn't have known.
I wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
But
it's true, because if you don't give kids a really, really easy way to say these things, and they just won't do it. Or some of them will. You get those. You always get the boisterous children who are every day. They're there. I want to tell you a problem. Yeah. And then I guess it's easy to then think, oh well, they're just going over a bit over the top, and everyone else is fine.
Well, there was one girl, just very quickly for an example, who that morning had come in. I always speak to them when they come in, like, hi, how you doing? You okay? And she was like, yeah, I'm okay, I'm good. And she sat down, she was presenting absolutely fine. Then her worry was something that was worrying her right then. It was like something from that morning. And I'm like, wow, I just wouldn't have known that because she was very smiley, cracking on. Wouldn't have had a single clue.
Kids
do,
to put on fronts quite quickly, I find.
So I just thought a nice quick win. Anyone at school, just try out. Just we all know what worry monsters are. We all do this, but just explicitly put 5 minutes aside one morning just to say, guys, let me know if there's something you want to let me know. Yeah. All anonymous. It was really cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
What was your week?
That was good.
Yeah.
My Jill, I had a really good week. I had a really good week.
You don't have to convince me, mate. I don't know why I'm picking on this.
I had a really good week.
I believe you, Mickey Mouse. That's fine.
Oh, thanks. Well, thanks for mocking me within 3 seconds.
That's fine. Yeah, don't worry about it. That's fine. You know why I mocked you? Because I don't want to hear it.
Because I've already read it on your notes.
Come on, yeah. But how was your week, mate? Did you manage to get any visits from any ex-pupils? Did you have a really nice week? Nice kids at school? Realised you're sick at the recorder? Did you measure around your stomach?
I wasn't even going to say some of these things. Go now. Oh. Anyway,
well, quick fire.
Look, listen, quick fire. I had a really nice week. Good. Really positive week. I just had one of those weeks where I finished my whole 3 days.
Week. Very loose definition of a week.
Oh, I feel bad. Anyway, whatever.
You don't.
Whatever. I finished my 3 days, and the kids were just so nice. Yeah. Everyone was respectful. Like I just had a really good week. I didn't have any problems. Yeah, it was really nice. Good. So that was good. Also been playing recorders, and I was quite proud of myself because I've never touched a recorder before the day I had to start teaching recorders. It was like,
you're doing only this? Yeah,
it's the first time I've ever done it. I've always done other subjects.
You've been a primary school teacher for nearly 10 years.
I've never taught recorders.
Wow,
yeah,
that's a rite of passage.
I know. So I was like, oh, God, I'm going to be rubbish at this. And I just sort of stayed one step ahead of them. And then we got to our little final piece yesterday that we're going to be playing in a church. And I looked at the sheet music and thought, oh, God, this is going to be painful. I've got to try and teach this. And I could play it straight away. Okay. Read it.
There's two parts of me right here.
Don't take this away from me.
One part of me wants to really big you up and be really nice.
Do that.
If it was someone I knew less, that's all I do. I'm like, oh, that's lovely to hear.
Yeah.
But I will just say, there's a reason we teach 7-year-olds the recorder.
Moving on.
Extremely easy.
I didn't think of that. Don't worry about it, mate. You should be proud of me. And the other thing I want to mention, a bit more personal and embarrassing. So, we had a bet, didn't we? We had a little bet.
Yeah.
Because obviously both of our girlfriends were pregnant at the same time. Give or take like a month, they were, very, very similar timings. And we had a little bit of fun just saying, I wonder at what point they will overtake us in the size of their stomach. Because we're just joking about ourselves.
Because we're big, bolshy men.
And we eat a lot of rubbish. And it was like, we've had a sweepstake on at what point.
I bet it's 4 months.
4 months. After a while, they looked very pregnant. And it was like, of course, they're bigger than us. Yeah. Well, no. Turns out... I was at my mum's the other day, and my sister thought it would be really, really fun to get the tape measure out.
Really fun?
Just because she knew.
What fun event doesn't start with the tape measure getting out?
We measured our feet. It was great. But she knew that she would be able to humiliate me, and she measured around Lauren's bump, right? And but just for context, she's 38 weeks pregnant.
She's ready to pop.
And then measured around me, and I was like 2 inches bigger. My circumference is larger. And I couldn't believe it. I was mortified.
If you were both planetary bodies, she'd be your moon still. She's still smaller.
Yeah. And I'd just eaten a Kit Kat and I had another one and I put it back.
Of course. I thought, that's the perfect situation, summarised. Yeah. After that, the fact you had a second Kit Kat lined up.
Second Kit Kat ready to go. So yeah, a bit gutted about that.
Okay.
That's my week. So yeah, I got to go on a diet now.
Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. We did say we were going to try and streamline our week a bit because we have got into the habit of going on and on.
It started with that delirious week.
Because I think that week the whole episode was an intro. I don't think we had any structure whatsoever.
Oh dear.
So yeah, that was our week. Brilliant. Should we get into the chunky bit of this podcast?
No.
All right. See you next time, guys. Right, so there is a danger, Hader, that for 2 weeks in a row we go down the negative spiral. So we made an agreement.
Few weeks.
We made an agreement that if we're going to talk about some negative things again, we have to either come up with some solutions, which we'll do later.
Yes.
But also we're going to have a nice little 2-minute, nice little happy thing right now. Happy segment.
We are.
Welcome to the happy segment of the Angry Podcast. Okay, ready? So nice little...
One day I'm going to make a compilation of all your little...
what?
A compilation
Okay, good.
of all your little thingy
A compilation?
Your little jingles that you make up.
Please do. I love it. This is what I do all the time. I don't think the viewers know this. So this is what happens every 2 minutes in my house.
It's great because we're becoming more and more comfortable with recording this podcast.
We're becoming more comfortable with talking on the...
You can't talk.
I can talk.
Most of the time. Anyway, becoming more comfortable. Comfortable? I can't speak now. You're under pressure.
Go on, try again.
We're becoming more comfortable on this podcast and you're beginning to see more...
Behind
realistic.
the veil. The mask is slipping.
Dylan. Anyway.
Soon I'll be whacking my head and running into the wall. That's a story for another day.
That's for future episodes. Anyway, quick thing, right? I just want to do a nice little thing.
Okay.
All right, and I'm going to ask you a question.
Yep.
You know what the question is?
Yep.
Because we planned the episode.
You can pretend.
I'll pretend for the viewers.
What's the question?
This is for the viewers and the listeners.
Just build really good...
Oh, no, I haven't asked it yet.
Oh, sorry.
I haven't asked it yet. You've got to wait.
Okay.
If you're going to pretend...
Yeah.
We'll do it again. Cut. We'll do it again.
Yeah.
Here we go. So, what's one... what's one thing that you do with your class to build rapport with them?
Don't want to.
Fantastic.
What about you?
Well, I also have the same answer. So,
no, that's a good question. I don't just do one thing is the answer. So I'm going to try and find it hard to pinpoint. But it feels like a cop-out answer. I always say it, but I think it's such a powerful way to go about seeing your class. And some teachers just don't. They just don't. And I know they don't because I work with them and they're not bad teachers, but they just don't do this. And I just treat and see every single child as an...
Sorry, I just imagining Brent again. Brent, he's back.
Not everyone does this, but I do. But no, you see and treat every single child as their own individual personality. I think every teacher does treat them as an individual in terms of their ability at maths and English, and they can put stuff in place with them, and that they're there to make them better at maths, better at English. But I just absolutely love every single year spending the time up until Christmas, not only teaching them lots of stuff, obviously, because that's the biggest part of the job, but just building a relationship with them where I know them individually. And I'd like to think that by Christmas, if you said any child in my class, I'd be able to tell you 3 or 4 individual facts about them that I've got from them from just talking to them, just getting to know them. I think that's such a powerful thing because I think loads comes from that. So there's always loads of little bits like do the register silly or all that kind of stuff. But for me, that's the biggest thing is they're their own individual personality, and just talk to them without the end goal of they're going to learn some maths by the end of this conversation, or they're going to know some more history. Yeah. I just talk to them as I would talk to you.
Well, do you have, because that's quite a wide point.
Yeah, I suppose.
And it's a very good point. But I was thinking more, to be fair, like a specific...
I didn't want to answer your question.
You do. like the register thing, right?
Yeah.
There was a little point that I was thinking of, because I do it all the time. And it is just funny. And just, I don't know, just saying their name slightly silly. Yeah. And then they love it. And that's
apparently there was one child who came up to me the other day and just said to me, in the register, I'm called you. What? He said, yeah, just say Mr. Price, and then I answer. Okay, brilliant.
And they love it.
Yeah, why not? The other day, this kind of backfired slightly. I was just saying the register, and I was just 6 children in, very close to the top. And I said a name, but apparently I thought I didn't, but obviously I did. I said a T at the start by accident, trying to stumble over my words. And so I'd replaced the first letter with a T by accident. And they're like, what? What did you say? say? Did you say that? I was like, no, I didn't. Thank you. So I proceeded to say every name wrong after that.
Yeah.
And
Just
it would
classic.
just change
And they
the
love
first
it.
time.
And they go home. What did you learn today? I don't know, but Mr. Price did this thing and it was unbelievable.
Okay, but we really need you to learn your times tables. Did you do them? No, but I changed the letter at the start of
My name. It was brilliant. And we did it all day.
What's that? So you can't spell your name now? No. So you've regressed? Yeah. Was it funny? Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I think little things like that do the register funny. And I guess one thing I do in lessons is I will very happily break for 2 minutes. And what I mean is like, it's not like, oh, break, stop and just rest. It's like, okay, I've realized that they're really bored. They're really bored right now. So I'm going to G them up a bit or get them infused and be silly or, you know. And one thing I do all of the time, my friends get annoyed, and I've said it before on the podcast, is I constantly praise them. Like I kill them with praise. Like they could be doing anything that's right, and some people say don't do that because then when they do something no, I don't care. I'm gonna kill them with praise, and then when they do something wrong, call them up on it. Yeah. But then I'm gonna have 90% of my time is praise.
Particularly those children, because I always remember training years ago about the hidden child, and it's like it was a way to get you to think about the quietest child in your class, because quite often they're gonna get the least interaction, simply because they're just not making as much noise. That's it. And I've always been aware of that, and I quite often do exactly what you're doing, and I'll actively think to myself, right, who is it? Because there's going to be 5 children at least in this class who constantly do the right thing. They never do the wrong thing, but they don't get much praise for it.
Yes.
And I'll be like, whoa, you know, little Timmy over there, let's, you know, can we be like him, please? And he's probably thinking, oh, sweet, like, I just got praised. I do this all the time, but...
And some people will go, well, he's just doing the bare minimum. You shouldn't be praising that. Well, funnily enough, more than half the class aren't. So I'm going to praise him, actually, because that's not obviously the bare minimum compared to other people in the class.
I guess positivity then is actually a really, really big thing for building rapport. Like I always I think of ways where they can earn something as a class. Like so it develops a bit of community spirit, and it's like, right, if we do this, you're going to earn yourself. Every time I put this thing on the board, you're going to get another minute. We're going to do extra play. If we get this work done to this standard, we're going to go outside. We're going to have some fun because you've done the hard work. And they're so driven by that sort of stuff. And then they like you for it, and you just build up a nice relationship with them because they're like, oh, this teacher rewards me. We don't just do more hard work as a reward for getting the work done hard.
I completely agree. I think it's an issue sometimes where there's a bit of a bell curve, like inverted, where in the middle, if you're a middly one, you might not get as much out of them. But if you shower them with praise and they really, really adore you, they can get loads out of you. But also, I saw a point the other day, and I think it's probably right, is sometimes the most liked staff member in school is actually getting the least out of their kids because there's another way to make children like you, and it's just to let them do whatever they want whenever they want. And then you're the walk over the cool teacher who's like, hey, we don't have to get our work done with this person. This is awesome. Isn't he the best? But then there's the other way, which is, oh yeah, he's really cool and funny. Like, we work hard.
But really strict rules in place, but he is nice as well.
Because I think, I really want to fight against the blanket thing of, and the statement was basically, the most liked teacher in your school is probably the worst teacher. And I was really triggered because I get the sentiment and I understand there will be teachers like that. But I think that sentiment feeds then into, you've got to be a monster.
Yeah.
And you just don't.
No, it is a fine line though, isn't it? Between being that and being a fun, respectful teacher that kids like, who does actually still get really good progress and results from their kids. It's hard.
Talking of being a monster, should we move on? So you've seen the title and you clicked on it. Someone shared it maybe, or you're just an avid fan. Thank you for coming back. And it is a bit negative. Okay, so the question's loaded. How do we fix terrible schools?
Clickbait.
Clickbait. Get them click, baby. Get them hooked. And then we get them with the Rory Poo story. How do we fix terrible schools? And I think my favourite part of the title is problems and solutions. Because I always feel like a bit of a negative Nelly when I come to something with just moaning, but I've not come with any solutions to fix it. So we're going to dive in. When we say bad schools, we mean not underperforming schools, like how do we make progress better? We're going to kind of harp on from last week, which was quite positive with people, positive feedback. And that is schools that are just become hellish. Schools that become a negative place for staff, a negative place for pupils. How can we fix these places? What is wrong with them in the first place? What are the problems in these kind of institutions? And how can we maybe try and move forward? And what are the solutions that are practical and that will make somewhere a much better place to be
Because
in.
there are plenty of good schools, and by good, again, we're not talking Ofsted today.
No.
We're not talking about gradings of schools. We're talking about places which people like going to work in, right? There are plenty of schools where staff retention is great, people love working there, and they get good results out of their kids. And there are plenty of schools that are Ofsted graded good or outstanding that are horrendous to work in. And we've got a really good example in a minute to share with you. They might get their progress, but they're horrible places to work in. So what is the difference between them? How can we make them better?
And I think one of the biggest rises we've seen like over the last, I guess, decade, I suppose, since we've been in school, is the rise of the kind of really harsh, hardline Victorian style inner city schools. You think of Michaela, that school with the head teacher who's apparently the strictest head teacher in the land, and they get amazing progress data, unbelievable data for their children.
Where was this one?
In inner city London, I think. So
Okay.
This is just in London, and the name of the staff that work there slips my mind, but the school's called Michaela.
Right.
Gets really good data progress points. They were released recently, probably, I think she was one in the country.
Wow.
Top 10 at least, okay?
Yeah, okay.
So unbelievable results for the children, which you can't turn your nose up at.
No.
That's fantastic. That is amazing. Because that is, at the end of the day, one of the biggest reasons we're in school is to get that. But the very, very, very negative press for how they go about it. Okay,
Right.
and we see high levels of exclusion that we'll talk about, high levels of staff turnover, high expectations from staff, horrible workload, horrible kind of place to be if you're a staff member. It's not a nice place to be unless you're in that mindset of this work is my life, and they get results. And I guess this whole point here is we're going to try and balance that. And I think whilst progress is really important, I suppose the foundation we're going to lay here is we're going to come at this from the perspective of the well-being of the teachers and the staff. The teachers and the children.
Yeah.
So, of course, there's different ways to make progress. Fine. But we're going to say right now, a bad school is a school where you hate going into work.
Yeah.
Like you just said.
Yeah.
So we can't start this conversation without referencing something that came up this week. So Hayden, take over for me.
Well, Dylan messaged me the other day and sent me a link, which has obviously gone viral because I've seen it in loads of places now. It was a letter. Was it from the union? The actual letter that was.
It was
written?
from the local executive of NASWUT.
Yeah. So they wrote it, and it was a letter to the parents, right, about what they're doing. So it's based around a trust called Australia.
Austria?
No, Australia.
Ostracized?
Astria.
Astrid.
It's called Australia.
Australia?
Okay.
Yeah.
A terrible joke.
Yeah.
No one's laughing at this point.
Everyone's thinking about what was in the letter. Don't laugh.
Yeah. You might have seen it. So if you're in the teaching world, you've probably already seen it.
So
it's gone super viral.
Austria, whatever you want to call it.
Australia.
They're a trust, right?
Yeah.
And they have
A
loads
big
of
trust.
schools.
Yeah,
in the
lots
Midlands.
of schools. And they're known for being extremely strict, extremely militant. And there's a particular school, St. Ivo, which is what this letter is based around, who they've had a horrendous time. I don't know if they've been in the trust for long. I got the impression from the letter that it's been over the last couple of years. And perhaps they weren't in the trust before, but I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
Anyway, should we summarize some of the points that have come out of this letter?
So like the point was the letters from the union because the teachers are striking, right?
Yeah.
It's got to the point where the teachers are striking in an individual school because of their work and conditions.
Striking against the trust.
So the trust are in charge. St. Ivo have their own leadership, whose hands seem to be quite tied here. They can't have the authority to make any decisions.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the leaders of the trust are saying, well, it's a local issue. We can't do anything. So nothing's getting done. So what has been happening in this school that means that we've ended up having an individual school taking strike action?
It's ridiculously draconian. So there's a few points. I know we'll go back and forth. So I'm going to mention one. So from this letter, apparently the staff there, they've introduced a dress code that is so strict that basically no one can deviate from one particular outfit, and people are saying it's really not very modern, and it goes against a lot of modern rights for people and how they want to dress and represent themselves.
Especially women, apparently.
Yeah, it did say especially women. So Christ knows what.
High heels and skirts, please.
It probably is something like that. You can wear high heels and skirts and a posh
we don't know, just
blouse.
to put that out there.
No, but it's going to be something like that. So that was one point.
And it's expensive.
Yeah, they said
really
the uniform's expensive.
And the only thing they've given back on that is, okay, we'll phase it in. So it's not a cost straight away.
Not even we're not going to do it.
The thing that got me, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. And it's, you know those jokes we make before?
Yeah.
And we talked about not having a chair. And we were like, that was real, but that's ridiculous. That's as mad as it gets.
Yeah,
isn't
you can't
it,
have a staff room. You can't have a chair in your classroom.
Can't have a chair in your classroom to sit down. No, oh, guess what? You can't have lined paper on your desk. What? What? Can't have lined paper.
Not allowed it.
Do you know what? Because it's a distraction from the learning. You can't have lined paper on your desk. And
Mad.
did you just move the bin from the assigned place for the bin to be in the classroom?
The letter said that if the bin wasn't in the assigned place, then it would be disciplinary action for the staff member.
Bin!
Disciplinary action.
Do you know what I want to put in the bin? Australia. Australia.
Australia.
They can go in the bin.
Okay.
Unbelievable.
Mad. And also posters. Apparently they're not allowed posters on the walls unless it's like the trust's own posters.
This is like
It's like propaganda, isn't it?
This is like Mussolini in Italy. See, Austria. That's unbelievable.
Oh man, apparently there's a lot more, but
Yeah.
so it's horribly militant. And
treat the staff awful, treat the children awfully, high levels of exclusion.
Yeah.
We see this a lot in multi-academy trusts where they come in and like, cool, we've got to make data better. How can we make data better? Let me think. What are we going to do with the children who have low data? Bye-bye. See you later.
What was really interesting was they did, so typical kind of trust where they only care about the progress data, right?
Yes.
That is the only thing that's important. Well, they did a survey in the school. I was reading through the website, like the parent website that they've got for the school. And they did a survey in the school, and I was just looking at some of the data from this survey, and they were asking children and parents and families things like, is your child happy at school? You know, do they suffer with any like mental, like anxiety and depression, all those sorts of things? And it was so high,
Really?
like horribly high, where these kids are not enjoying being at this school.
And that, to me, is the crux of the issue where, as teachers, we're adults, we can vouch for ourselves, you know, we can argue against something, we can take them to the union and strike. The children don't have a voice here.
No.
They're born in that area. That's their local school. There's no other places. They've got to go there, and it's horrendous. And that's where it kind of kicks in for me as stop being funny and starts being serious.
Yeah.
And I know you spoke to a mum from the area because you spoke online to one of the parents from someone whose child goes to that school, and she was devastated.
Yeah. She said it was her. I mean, she didn't say much other than agreeing with everything in this letter and saying it is just. She said it was a nightmare. Was her word? A nightmare that her child goes there because they've got lots of schools.
Yeah.
I don't think it was that school. It was one of the other schools in the trust.
Yeah. But they okay. What other schools have we got? Oh, another Astria school.
Yeah.
Come on, the Astria.
Yeah.
Another one. Astria. We've got 41 Astria
Yeah,
schools.
they got all the schools in one area.
Sorry, mate. Do you want to go travel an hour and a half?
This is dreadful because, I mean, we've talked about this a lot and we've kind of mentioned it already, ironically, at the start of this episode about trying to make your kids happy, and that's how you build good rapport with them. And these staff, they're not allowed to do that. They're just not allowed. Which would, if you were told, no, next time you do the register like that again, and that's disciplinary action, take their names silently, and if they answer you back, they're out of the class. You'd be like,
I would do what they said, take their names silently and mouth it to them.
Yeah, yeah. Then that's it. You're out. You're fired now.
Yeah. Okay, bye.
But it'd be horrible, wouldn't it? Like, it's taking away your autonomy.
Yeah. And I think this links really nicely into the kind of the list we've put together.
Yeah.
So this whole thing kind of sparked this idea of Hayden and I. We've worked in different schools. We've seen firsthand how schools can be very different from one another. And I think we've got a nice list here about what you would see in a school where you do not want to work.
Yeah.
What are you going to see? And we've taken some ideas from other people because I know last week, unbelievably, we finished the top 5 reasons people are quitting. And I was like, wait, we didn't talk about behavior. That's a huge thing right now. So we put ourselves out there a bit, asked some people for some advice, and we've got a list we're going to work through. So for anyone who's working in a school that's awful, do you see yourself here? Anyone who's working in a school that they think is bad, well, maybe you'll read this and you'll think, oh, actually, it's not too bad. And if you're parents, this is something to look out for. And this is something I'm really passionate about, Hayden, is any parents listening, do not just go off the one-word Ofsted report. You want to be looking for these kind of things because if your staff are not happy in a school, it will feed down to the children, and that's important.
Yeah. And even progress data, like we're saying right now, even progress data isn't the be-all and end-all because if your child is not happy at school, are we just going to pretend that's not important? I'll let you decide. So, yeah, I asked a few people online kind of what their experiences were and what they thought.
And it was a mixture of teachers and parents, wasn't it?
It was in the end.
Yeah.
It was, yeah. And here are some things. So if you want to jump in at any point, feel free, but I'm just going to read off this list. So the first one was that the terrible score is when there's an embedded expectation that you will sacrifice your time for the job.
I think what would be good if we go through this, I'm going to try and play the opposite. Okay.
So
I'm going to come through and be like, I agree with this, but I suppose embedded expectation, is that not the same everywhere? Is that not just part of being a teacher?
Or part of working?
Yeah.
In a way, there's kind of an expectation, isn't there? Yeah. I guess it was the idea that you will sacrifice any time for the job. And I suppose systems in other jobs outside of teaching are in place that if you do have to sacrifice your time, here you go, here's more money.
Overtime.
Because we'll pay you for that overtime.
Yeah.
But I agree, this person, they were just making a really good point, I think, about it's not even a question.
Embedded's really
It's not
good.
even asked. Would you mind, I know this is more work and your timetable's already full, but there's this thing that's happened. Would you mind diddling with this? It's just, well, of course you will, because you're a teacher.
A good example there is someone joining your class, someone joining your school. You're in charge of their, program. You're their teacher, and they've got some additional needs that either aren't funded or are just not well known yet. And then it's kind of just like, here you go. So, okay, that only adds to what I've got to do now.
Yeah.
If I've got to do anything bespokely for this person, which I'm a teacher, of course I want to do that. That's why I'm teaching, because I want to help every single child. But that does mean that overrides my actual time.
Yeah. Well, we talked about, last week we mentioned, didn't we, about how the makeup of your class, which is potluck, complete potluck, it is a factor in terms of like why some teachers are quitting. Because if you're just unlucky, and in terms of you have a class that just requires 10 more hours a week of your time because you've got to plan individual things for children, which is part of your job and you have to do it. And we agree that it should be done because it's about outcomes for these children. But it's 10 more hours of your week and you're not getting paid any more for it. So it's that kind of point. I think it's just an expectation now. That you'll just sacrifice that time. Well, that's time with your newborn baby.
Exactly. And that's the thing now where honestly, beforehand, I was kind of moving towards saying no. At this point, I will not do it. Like I just won't. And if it is an issue, I'll be like, I won't go with it ballsy and say, oh, well, I'm not, no, it's wrong. Because I know things have to get done. Yeah. I will go to it with the idea of, okay, how can we solve this then? Yeah. Because it will not be solved by me doing 5 hours of extra work.
On a Sunday.
Yeah, that's not the solution. So let's think of a solution where it's built in and I'm not doing that extra thing because I'm not going to do it. Yeah. I think the next one, I'm going to come in because the next two kind of go together, I think. Yeah. And it's something I really feel passionately about because I've seen it firsthand and I know how I react to management who do this. And it forms how we manage our tutoring business, I think. I hope. Yeah, I really hope it does. And how we interact with people as maths leads and things like that is the idea that working in a school where it feels like the only thing that ever comes down from the top is negativity. Yeah,
things that have to improve.
Things that have to improve. Only other things have to improve. And there's this idea that, the baseline is, this is not good enough. Yeah, that's the idea in the head, and some would say that's a healthy thing in some businesses. Yeah, you can always improve. Yeah, yeah. But as a staff team, that is exhausting.
It's been really taken out of proportion because I would agree it is a healthy thing to have a mindset of I can always be better. I do think that's healthy, but I don't think it's healthy when that's the only mindset. Your mindset is also I can be better because I'm so terrible all the time. That's what's really happened, isn't it? Like, you're not terrible all the time,
and it manifests itself in things like support plans, observation, right? If you are, I'm sorry, maybe I'm wrong, and I'd love to hear someone come back at me. Maybe you can come back at me at this. Sure. If you give feedback to someone about their lesson and they cry, over 90% of the time, that's your fault for your feedback. Like I really do think that is, you've got to look at yourself when that happens. There'll be some situations, obviously, where someone's maybe going through something else and it triggers something. Yeah.
Or, to be fair, some people are just really hard on themselves. And it doesn't matter what the outcome was going to be. Like, in terms, it doesn't matter how you delivered. If there was something slightly negative, you could have said 19 positive things, one negative thing, and really tried hard, and they will still cry. So I think there are going to be people who,
I suppose,
just react differently.
Moving on to that then, what would that look like in a school that's awful to work in? It would look like that consistently whenever there's there's observations, someo's crying. Yeah. And it's across the school.
And I'll tell you what it would look like is those same people when observations coming up extremely anxious, already getting upset. Yeah. Like if that's a massive sign. Yeah. If someone's getting upset beforehand, hasn't even happened yet, then you know that they know that the only thing is going to be the culture is negative. But moving on to the next point, micromanaging. This came up a lot when I was talking to people. It's just that idea of, and again, it goes
removing
to the next
autonomy.
point, removing autonomy. Yeah. Being micromanaged too much makes the workplace horrendous. People don't want to work in it.
Do you think there are any positives ever to a school having really fine rules, details in place that they say you have to do this?
I mean, I think you kind of have to have that. But I think micromanaging to me is you can have those things in place, but it's not letting people just go and do them and explore and find the mistakes themselves and just learn how to do. Maybe there is a really, really strict policy and it's super fine, all these little details, But just give them the policy, let your staff do it, let them have a go, and then review it in a few months. Okay, well, that's not working. I wonder why. It's either all of my staff are terrible, or maybe my policy is a little bit too bitty. Rather than just constantly being on your staff and every single day micromanaging. You haven't done this, you haven't done that. Well, I've checked this bit, you haven't done that, but you haven't done this bit. No one likes that.
The ultimate example of that is when something's introduced, okay, and as professionals, you feel not heard. Because something might be brought into with really good intent. Like, we're going to start doing this in our music curriculum, okay? When the staff team turn around and all of them think that that's a bad idea, and they say, no, I don't think so because X, I don't think so because of Y, I don't think so because of Z. I think in a bad school, that's completely ignored. In a school that's awful to work in, your professional judgment as the literal people who deliver the change that's being implemented, so the teaching staff, who are going to be delivering this change you're trying to put in place. If they are saying no, that needs to be top of the... well, why? Let's find out. Because then a good leadership might come along and say, well, we wanted to introduce this because we need to do that. And then the teacher's going to say, okay, well, maybe we can do it this way. Maybe it's that way. Because the way you're telling us to do this now is not going to work. And here are the reasons.
To add to that point slightly more, because you did kind of address it really, I think it's also bad management, though, to do the complete opposite, which is all your staff teams say no, so you don't do it automatically. There has to be, and you were basically just fleshing that out then. There has to be a middle ground of, if all of your staff are saying no, the least you can do is listen to their concerns, and as a good manager, try to come to a conclusion about, is there validity in why everyone thinks this is bad? The chances are there is if everyone thinks it's bad.
For sure.
What often happens in schools, and I know this is every school ever, hopefully people will be nodding like, there's always going to be one staff member that resists any change anyway, because it's just different.
And it doesn't mean that it's bad, does it?
No, doesn't mean it's bad, but like,
So I suppose in a school that's terrible to work in, things to look out for, red flags, where management basically work completely separately to the teaching team. They're completely separate.
Kind of like our government.
A little bit
like our government. So it's like the education secretary, who is completely disassociated from all of us. Has nothing to do with teaching.
Such a good point.
Doesn't know anything about it.
Such a good point.
It's the same thing, and none of us respect her.
If literally tens of thousands, I think if not hundreds of thousands of teachers are saying the thing we do 60 hours a week is completely broken. And then the people in charge go, I think you're the problem.
One person. Never worked in a school. Don't really visit them often.
Maybe it can't be me. Maybe the teachers are the problem.
Maybe it is the 100,000.
Maybe it is the 4 days they had off instead of the millions of pounds they've lost. I think it is, actually. I'm going to record a video and post it on X. Get in the bin. Get in the bin.
Just a quick side point. Did you see that video of Rishi Sunak with the transition?
Oh, so good. So good.
Made me laugh so much.
Good. He's clearly got a team around and go, right, Gen Z, they're doing transitions non-stop. So whenever you want to make a point, you just go up to the camera. There you go. I'm doing it right now. Anyone watching?
Put your hand to the camera.
Also, I'm going to be stopping the boats. And I'm going to be halving the inflation, which I don't have control over going up. But when it goes down, I'll pretend I have control over it and it'll be good for me. And also,
for anyone listening, he is putting his hand to the camera.
I'm going to also... Did I say stop the boats? Please vote for me.
What's the thing that will get the most votes? What was it?
Just say 5 things over and over and it'll fix itself.
What was it? Do you know, it's just, I know we're going off one slightly, but I promise I won't be too long. But I had an interesting conversation with my mum.
Don't hear it.
You were like this, it's political. He loves a political thing. And we were talking about, like, we're going to the topic of elderly drivers.
Okay.
All right, a really random discussion. And my mum was just basically quick to say, a few years ago, there was definitely talk of introducing a test for people over a certain age, just to ensure they can still drive or whatever, essentially safely, because there was a rise in crashes and things. And she was like, I don't know why that's not coming in. I was like, okay, well, who's the primary voters for the Tories then? Obviously older people. Okay, cool, there you go then. Nothing will ever get done if it affects the largest voter base. That's as simple as that. That's how it works.
Teachers, on the whole, are never going to vote Tory. So why would they bother ever giving us anything?
No, of course.
Why do you think Rishi Sunak's going back on all the Green pledges after doing loads of green stuff as the Chancellor under Boris Johnson? like an incredibly green like government, to be fair, did a lot of green stuff. Why do you think now he suddenly doesn't care and cares about won't somebody please think of the motorist? Won't somebody please think of the person in the 1-ton metal vehicle? Oh, what are they going to they're going to go slower for a bit, mate.
Yeah.
They're going to go a bit slower, and the world's going to carry on. For God's sake.
Yep.
Honestly. Anyway,
Back
in
to
a
this
bad
conversation.
school,
Yeah, bad
Rishi
schools.
Sunak would be in charge.
Yeah.
And he would just completely change his mind every 3 seconds.
I've got some bad news for you.
Yep. He's in charge of
He's in
everything.
charge at the moment. Yeah.
Of the whole thing.
Crikey.
So yeah, I mean, we're going off one a bit because it's easy to, but in a bad school, this is what we see. Management separated from staff, no autonomy for teachers, micromanagement to the nth degree, general negative vibes around the place, and that can seep even from the staff room. Okay?
And the baseline of teachers is
Yeah.
you are doing a bad job.
How
That's the
can we fix
baseline.
it? And I suppose what I wanted to do was, okay, everything there is to do with management.
Yeah.
And I think it's really easy for us to just say, okay, what makes a bad school? Management. I want to kind of push the boat out a bit and think, what else? What other factors are there as to why schools become a place that we don't want to work in? And I think the majority, sure, it's down to management, but there's a lot of extremity factors, extreme factors, factors on the outside that I think really can have a big part. And you can work in a school with really strong leadership, but this can still make you dread going into work.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think the biggest one at the minute, we missed it last week, is behavior.
Yeah.
Behavior can really get people down. And the point, I guess, links into something else. If you're in a year group that you simply don't want to teach because you can just be moved.
Yeah, that's
very,
true.
very easily.
You might. Most people have a preference.
Yeah.
Like I have a preference. Of
And
teaching.
it doubles up with behavior, though. So you're in a year group you don't want to teach, and you've got a class which, again, like you said, potluck, just happened to be the most disruptive class possible.
Yeah.
That's going to affect your mood. That's going to affect your outlook on the school, no matter what's happening from the top down.
And you happen to be working with a team that you just don't gel with.
Yeah, that's a good
And it's not
point.
because you're horrible or they're horrible, but we're not all best friends with everyone. We don't always gel with people. We have different personalities.
And people who work differently to you. I've had this for sure. And I know that I've been the person, I think, I definitely
You're
know.
the outlier.
Yeah, I've been the person who does differently to like the other 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And maybe, that might be that the other 2 or 3 are just much more organized and plan way ahead. And then we share planning, and I just don't. And it doesn't get to them in the same timely manner as it gets to me. I end up feeling bad because of it, and they end up feeling stressed, I imagine, because it's not how they would do it.
Yeah, and you made them quit. So they quit because of you. You're the problem.
That's the answer to the question.
Yeah.
What makes schools so bad?
I'll tell you what, though, because I was thinking about this, because you did mention this to me when I was discussing ideas about the episode.
Yeah.
And I think
Hayden,
they're
don't pretend
still,
that we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
This is happening.
I still think they're really, really separate. I kind of put all those things into just like a potluck category. Whereas I think the management thing...
Not potluck?
I guess it's potluck. But I think it can be really easily controlled. Like, you can't change the behavior. It is kind of just luck, right?
That's a good point.
You can't really change. Like, it's not up to you as a staff member. That you can't change the other staff members' like personalities.
Yeah.
Really. Like, whether you gel with them or not, it's kind of a you problem.
Yeah, but you can't change the leadership's personalities and the way they do
No,
stuff.
but we can change the leadership.
We can change the staff.
Yeah,
that's the outlook of some people.
Yeah, I don't know. It still feels different. I can't really word it. It just feels different to me. Like,
It's good for a podcast that you can't word something.
oi. I don't know. Do you not think
No,
that's
I'm playing
different?
advocate here. I think you're right. I think it can be more of a system. It's more systemic, the other things. And with systemic stuff, you can uproot the systems and change them.
Yeah.
Whereas, no matter what systems are in place, you're going to get a child, like a class that's boisterous.
Yeah.
You're going to get individuals that you just don't get on with. Like you said, that's not bad. They're not bad teachers. They're
But it might be
different
because of, and my point there, I guess,
Yeah, okay.
is it's because of your personality.
Exactly.
So those teachers didn't get on with you because of your personality.
Yeah.
We might have got on, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems different to me. Yeah, it's the systems that are in place. You can change the policies, and if you've got a poor management team resisting these changes, it just makes a horrible place to work.
Okay, so how about this one then? This is, I suppose, my last point here about what makes bad schools before we go into our solutions. What about then, if that's the case, the only way that we're ever really going to change that is if the staff make a point and almost like they have at St. Ivo and gone on strike and said, no, this is unacceptable.
Yeah.
Because as long as there's a lack of a drive to change anything, then those things at the top that can change won't. So it is one of the biggest problems, and I don't necessarily think this, I'm asking you, is one of the biggest problems that as teaching staff, we tend to be a bit more passive, a bit more likely to sit in the staff room and have a moan with each other, a bit more likely to go home and let it affect our personal lives. But realistically, from the top down, they think, well, they're all doing it. Isn't that great?
Yeah, definitely. I think you're absolutely onto something there in terms of our culture. that we impact. We all impact the culture for sure. And if you're right, because it does happen a lot, doesn't it? Just moaning and then, have you told the head teacher what you think? No. I shouldn't.
Yeah.
Well, why are you moaning then? Like, I suppose if they're, if you're in a good school, it brings it back round. If you're in a good school, maybe people do go and speak and they feel like they can.
The head's more proactive in asking.
Yeah.
What
but there is the middle ground.
Yeah.
You can still have schools where you do have a nice SLT team, but they just don't action anything. I think that because we sort of wrote that down, it is that lack of drive. Yeah, okay, we recognise these problems. We agree they're problems. 6 months later, nothing's changed. It's like, okay, that's probably a quality of a bad school. It's just not maybe as bad as the ones where they're like, no, we absolutely disagree with you, and now you're on a support plan for mentioning it.
Yeah, because that's absolutely right. That lack of drive, the drive would just mean that your life's even worse.
Yeah.
People just make that choice of, okay, my life's like a 3 out of 10 now in this job, but if I kick up a fuss, it'll be a solid 1 out of 10.
Yeah.
So I'll just keep the 3 out of 10.
And
then that's just the worst place to be in. So I don't think it's as simple as me sitting here, like I sometimes do, saying, you've just got to not do it. It's like, I know it's tricky.
Yeah, I reckon there are staff like you and I that would be in places like St. Ivo and absolutely have been so ground down that they have no possible way of being like that.
Yeah. So now we've done all the negative stuff.
Yeah, only 50 minutes of it.
Should we spend, I think I want to spend the next little bit just thinking, okay, our ideal school, what does it look like? Okay. What can we do? How can we fix these problems?
This.
I know. Let's
do
it.
This.
It's all really positive now. Let's play the jingle and have a merry time.
Do your jingle then. Go on.
Do 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 do. Let's be positive. How can we run a school?
Oh, still going.
We will make it good, but not good like Ofsted. Good like what I think. Yeah?
Yeah. Good like what I think. I love that. That summarises you well, doesn't it? Not anybody else's opinion but mine. Dylan Price. That's me.
I'll spend 5 minutes trying to convince you that I'm right. If you agree, then that's okay. If you don't, then you're wrong.
I'm not going to find it now at this last minute, but yesterday you said something to me when we were talking and I didn't call you out on it, but it made me laugh so much.
What was it?
And you said the phrase.
What?
You said, actually, you said, I can't remember the exact I'm going to get it wrong. I'll get it wrong, but it was.
I think I know
it
what
was
you're
something
say.
like. You're absolutely right because I agree. That was the phrase you used, and I
remember typing it.
Oh, good to know I'm right now. You agree, so I'm right.
Because you made a point that was slightly different to mine, and I couldn't just say yeah. I had to say yeah. I also had that train thought.
Yeah, and therefore it's more valid now. It's more valid now because Dylan Price agrees. I just laughed.
Right, let's fix this bloody school, shall we?
Let's fix them, shall we? Move on from you. Embarrassing.
Right, so I'm sufficiently embarrassed.
Good.
Hayden, what can we do to fix these problems in a school? What does a good school look like?
It's all about trust. All about trust, baby.
Reward, loyalty, satisfaction.
Yeah. Well, when I was having the conversations with people about what makes negative schools, they were then inadvertently telling me what a good school is and the good schools they've worked in.
Sure.
And the biggest thing that came from it was this idea of trust. And I think that's quite a wide point. Maybe we can delve into it a bit more. But it was always, just a trusting me as a teacher, trusting all your staff, trusting that the right things are going on. So, should we break that down a bit more?
Yeah. I suppose the opposite to that baseline we just spoke about, where a lot of schools, and I've worked in a school where the baseline was, it's not good enough. That and I felt very clearly that it was, cool, fix that. And then I knew, okay, what's the next thing? It was never, cool, it's working.
Yeah.
Never ever were you feeling like you're in a state of, I'm just delivering and doing a good job, which is fine.
Yeah.
You can think that for even a term, but there are some places where you can't think that for a day, and that's perpetuated by the top. So I guess in a really good school, whilst trust, what do you think here? To me, trust doesn't mean we leave you to it all year. That's it,
and then it's potluck from the SLT's point of view, whether you're doing a good job or not.
Yeah.
I agree. Trust is exactly what I'm going to re-say what you're saying now. It is just the assumption that you're doing a good job already. That's the baseline assumption. You're doing a good job. We trust you because we've employed you. If we didn't, we've done a terrible job of employment, haven't we? Really?
Exactly.
Like we've not done.
Linked to that is the idea of autonomy. So what would autonomy look like? Because I'm really interested in this because I think that if I was a member of SLT in charge of a school, I think I would very easily fall into the trap. Jokes aside, like what you're saying of I will just think, well, this is the way I'd do it. So it's too inconsistent. I can't be sure that it's happening. So, okay, you're all going to do this. So where's the line for you with autonomy in a good school?
I find this one really hard. I think you probably will as well for the same sort of reason, because I don't think it's good practice to have too much autonomy.
Okay.
I don't think it would be good, right, if me and you went to school and between us and all the other teachers, we all had a completely different way of teaching English. Like you were like, hey, we've got a book for this term. We're going to do that. And I'm like, no, I don't do texts at all. We do everything sentence level, and then we do a bit of writing at the end. And someone else has done something completely different. I think that would be terrible, because I don't think that SLT, other than potluck, because everyone could just happen to be really good at doing those things. But I think I don't think they could have a really good hold on what their staff are doing, and a good management system where they're like, okay, we can assess this well.
So what does autonomy look like then? Because I suppose what we're saying is there'd be some baseline rules in charge, like you're going to use this text, okay, and we want you to make sure you're covering these kind of strands with your questioning. We want to make sure that you're obviously covering the curriculum and your writing. So what will autonomy look like in terms of, let's say, a parallel class? Or even year groups, whatever you want it to be. You walk through a school, how would it be different then?
My opinion on how autonomous something is pretty much based on the point in which we stop getting involved as management. So that point for me is you can be quite prescriptive all the way down, I think, even to the learning objectives. And at that point, if you stop, it's autonomous for me. Because it's like, cool, as a teacher, we trust you to deliver this curriculum in a really good way. Here is the curriculum, by the way.
And you have to deliver this curriculum.
You've got to deliver this curriculum. Here it is. Here are all the objectives. I'll even let you, decide how long you're going to spend on the objectives. But here they are in order. Across 2 terms, you've got to teach this. And the autonomy for me is saying to the teacher, giving them all that and saying, go on then, off you go. And not getting involved every day and micromanaging and saying, oh no, I think you should have spent 15 minutes on that task, 20 minutes on this one. That's a bad lesson because of that.
Well, I'm thinking back to observation feedback I've had before, where there really are 2 types of observation feedback. One's where it's like, okay, actually, yeah, that's really useful. I did spend too long on that because you explained to me that had a detrimental effect then on their task, detrimental effect on their independent. That's really useful.
Good feedback. Okay?
But when it's not useful, is I always remember a lesson you had with metaphors and similes. And you simply got the children to write down a definition of a metaphor and a simile in their book so they could refer back to it and understand because they're working with both. That took a minute.
Okay? And I really wanted them to write it
and that's because it was your autonomy to say, okay, I'm going to use that as a learning tool for them to come back to in my lesson that I've planned. And that was a problem.
Yeah, I got told it was a waste of a minute. And bear in mind, I'd really meticulously thought about my lesson because it was an observation. And I'd already run through the options of I could just give it to them on a bit of paper and stick it in. And I was like, nope, I want them to write it down because it literally is going to force them for 1 whole minute to think about that. Like the worst case scenario is someone manages to write that down and like blindly and not think about it. But most kids are going to be reading the words they're writing down. And I wanted them to do that. No, terrible. I got bad feedback for that lesson because that should have been on a sticker or a bit of paper and just stuck in their book so you could get on.
And do you know what the worst thing is? In these kind of schools where that's a problem, depending on who's seeing you, if you've done a sticker, someone would have said it was a problem.
Yes, of course.
Someone else would have been like, oh, well, why don't you get them to write it down? It will embed it more.
Yeah.
It's so objective. And I think in a good school, you get rid of the subjective stuff because you just trust your professionals. You can judge them on, oh gosh, you're a year 4 teacher and you've not taught this objective in addition and subtraction. No, they need to know this. That should never be offensive to someone because you need to cover the curriculum. If you go in and you say, well, actually, I did think that the fact you spoke about your weekend for a couple of minutes halfway through the lesson, I don't think that was on. I think we could have been spent that too.
They weren't learning.
Yeah, get over it.
Yeah. The teachers
that's
decided
autonomy,
that the professional. Yeah, exactly. And I think it leads really nicely to the next point about having clear systems in place.
Yeah.
So, because I guess for me, autonomy stops at the point of, as management, you've got really good policies and systems in place that your staff can follow easily so that they can be autonomous with the delivery of those lessons.
That's such a good point because in itself, having a system that everyone follows isn't autonomy, but it allows for good autonomy. It's interesting. So how would that look in your school? So are you talking about a scheme of work? Are you talking about a behavior system? Or like what do you mean?
Well, okay. I'm right now, the example I'm thinking of is something like a scheme of work, right? Because we have subject leaders. Now I'm thinking back to a time when I first became maths subject leader and I was super, super, super passionate about the subject. Yeah. And I just had this assumption that everyone else was as passionate as me.
Yeah, that's a really
And I look back at it and I learned a lot from that time because I think we lead maths quite differently now to how I led maths way back then. Because back then, and I think this was terrible, was I put in place loads and loads and loads of really intricate things that were just amazing. They're very time consuming, but really, really good, passionate things because I was so passionate about maths. And I was like, everyone has to do this now. I've given you this resource, right? You've got to, before you plan, you've got to check this, this, and this. And you've got to get one of these in. And I was like, this is great. Like, because if everyone does that, these maths lessons will be perfect. But really, in reality, no one was anywhere near as passionate as I was at that time about maths. And it was just a huge burden. And it was a really, really complex policy that no one could actually get their head around and follow properly. So I think that, coming back full circle, a better system in place would have been much more simple, maybe sacrificed a few of those things that I know are really great. But you know what? Teachers can be autonomous and put those things in if they want, because if your system's really good, there might just be a little bank of resources there they can use if they want to have that autonomy. Yeah. But here's the core system in place.
Yeah. No, I think that's really powerful. I completely agree with that journey, and I think a lot of people listening who do work in a school or in any kind of job, I suppose, is when someone puts their passion or their job description onto other people, and it's like, okay, I understand how much you're passionate, and I actually know that what you're doing is really good. But that does not mean that it's going to be beneficial if you force everyone to do it, because then what happens to history? What happens to science? What happens to English? It's just too much. And I think you're absolutely right about clear systems, which feel sometimes maybe you're taking autonomy away. Good leaders will make it very clear that there is autonomy built in, because you can do X, you can do Y, you can do Z. From our case in maths, it's the pitch, it's the pace, it's what you want to alter. There's a curriculum and a progression. You've got to use it. Yeah. But how you think you need to deliver it for your children. Even in that lesson, you think, okay, we need a practical lesson here. I'm going to go off script because I know the end goal is given to me and I need them to get there. Yeah. But I know that my children will get there this way, so I'm going to do it. If we walked in and we saw someone going completely off script, but we just watched it and we went, oh, I get that.
Yeah, that's of course. Yeah, which is very different to, imagine we were in a poor school. Imagine we were the bad management. We walked in, we saw them going off script, and we told them that was terrible. They didn't stick to the script. That's awful. You've now made you've started a terrible culture. Yeah.
And good teaching is often painted in a bad light. Yeah. That's objectively good teaching. If you make that choice for your children, you would be making people scared to make good choices for their children. Yeah, true. Through being scared of autonomy.
The risk of, it could be a bad choice. Well, you know what? It might not be, though.
How about then, when we're thinking about what makes a good school, and I guess it's the kind of antithesis of everything we just said about a bad school, but I think this is so important, is we talked about positivity with the children. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I'm really, really passionate about this. And I know sometimes it can become quite condescending to my friends who laugh and joke. They understand why, they think it's nice. But I always say this when I play golf with my friends. They hit a good shot. I feel like I go into teacher mode. Yeah. Oh, what a shot. What unbelievable. That's so good. Because I just go into that, I feel like I want to praise everything because I get the most out of my kids. Yeah. With adults, it can be seen as condescending. And we can be seen as very professional, especially in these schools where they're not nice to be in. And, you talked about the baseline of negative. Something's bad. So my job, by definition, is to fix things as SLT. Yeah. In a good school, what does that relationship look like between management and teaching staff?
It looks exactly the same as the relationship between you and your kids in a good school.
Tell them what to do and they do it.
It's the same. Yeah, not that. It's the same thing. Because it's just psychology. That point we made at the beginning of this episode about building good rapport with your kids. Really, it's not really about kids at all.
No, you don't want 30 mates who are 7.
Yeah, exactly. That's not really what it is.
Why are you building it?
It's psychology. It's because people feel good when they've been told they're doing things well. That is really quite simple. And when people feel good, guess what? They do things well. Yeah. It's a cycle, right? And when people feel bad about stuff, it's the classic thing. If you're a teacher, think right now, how many kids can you list off the back of your hand who are not very good at reading and they hate reading? It's a cycle. Oh, I'm not very good at PE, hate PE. Not very good at maths, hate maths. Of course they do. Teachers, I'm not very good at teaching, and now I hate teaching, and I've quit. It's the same thing. So I don't think it's condescending, really. I live life like that as well. I really try to go out of my way to.
Unless it's you, I'm sorry. You're literally the only person who I'm like constantly brutal. It's
because we have a deeper connection. Love. Okay, we have a deeper connection. Yeah. But it's true. When my friends do stuff, I always try to like big them up and be nice about it. I might have the odd joke, but I actually hate it. I find it cringe when you have those friends or people that
hey,
nah, because we're not.
I know.
But you know what I mean. There are those people out there who they only
It's like an affront, isn't it?
They only ever make things like take the mick out of good things. Like, oh well, we've done that for. It's like, I've just done something good.
It's an affront to them. Again, I feel like I do this to you, but it's because I feel like we've gone past it. But like, it's an affront when they've done something well.
Yeah.
You ever get that? I know people where, if I were to say, and I don't even like saying like, I've achieved this. I don't really like that. But if I were to say that, there are some people I know who would like really big me up.
Yeah.
And there are some people I know who their first thought would be, what have I done better?
Yeah.
You know, and it's that kind of, you know, all right. It's like, I've had a kid constantly. I'm having a kid.
Yep. That's me, baby.
But yeah, no, going back to that kind of thing.
Yeah.
When you got that feedback from your English lesson about your metaphors and similes, right? Did you after that think, oh my gosh, I'm transformed now. I'm going to teach English so much better because you've told me I can't write it down? Or did you think, okay, screw it, boring lessons from now then, I'm not going to bother?
I actually thought I lost complete faith in the SLT because they didn't. Because I thought I did plenty of good stuff. I don't think I'm perfect where that lesson was perfect. I reckon there are ways I can look back now and reflect on that lesson and teach it way better. Yeah. But they didn't give me that feedback. Yeah. They didn't give me those constructive things. They just picked on something really arbitrary that I thought was just a pointless point to make. Yeah. And they didn't mention anything good. So I was like, cool, being the bullshitter, I guess, and quite stubborn and arrogant. I just took that as cool. You have no idea what we're talking about. I literally don't respect you anymore. I do not care what you say to me anymore.
Right or wrong, okay? That's clearly a bad environment to work in.
Yeah.
So no matter, it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong in that situation. If SLT are giving that kind of feedback, you're going to get that kind of response. That's not a nice situation.
No. And if I was less arrogant and stubborn,
big if,
if I were less arrogant and just basically a normal human being, normal teachers, I probably would have taken that feedback really badly and then made sure to never do that thing again, which I thought was good about getting children to write things down because I think there's value in them writing it.
Negating
and I'd always
teaching.
put it on stickers, and then my teaching's worse.
That's such a good point. So. The too much autonomy actually squashes teachers.
Yeah.
So I guess, again, me kind of playing this role of, well, okay, but you know, it's all well and good saying to someone, well done. Well done, you. Thank you. Did you do all that planning? Well done. Well done, though. Well done. Did you do all that planning at weekend? Did you do all that planning, though?
Yeah.
Well done, though.
Yeah.
What about, you know, I know a lot of, you know, people in those kind of positions from previous life, let's say, where I'm like, okay, you present very nice, but you perpetuate this toxic environment.
Yeah. It's got to be real.
So what can we actually do? Yes, we're going to be positive to our staff, but it's that W word. You know what word I'm talking about. What does that look like in a good school?
Well, yeah, okay, so I'm just going to go back a step because there's a lot
What's the W word? Because we want to clarify.
I don't know.
Workload.
Oh, okay. Well, I was thinking, what are you talking about? I was thinking, hopefully you'll clarify.
Water.
I was already thinking about my point as well. So, the fakeness. It's so easy to spot, isn't it?
Insidious, yeah.
Oh, God. So I genuinely think if our head teacher right now said something nice to me, I would take that. I'd believe it.
100%.
Because I think it's genuine. Yeah. But I have definitely been in situations before where someone could say something and I'm like, cool, this is a mask, get to the point then. Yeah. What's the negative thing you want to say underneath
it's
this?
So true.
It's all I think. It's not real. You don't really think this about me
at all. You know that classic like sandwich of feedback.
Positive like, sandwich.
Negative sandwich.
Yeah, you changed it. I like that.
It was from my uncle. Because he was like, he's right. You don't call a sandwich what's on the outside. It's not a bread sandwich. True. So yeah, the whole positive thing. How many times do you see this? You'll get an email, right? I have seen such fantastic things from you guys. But what an amazing week we've had. Amazing teaching from the top down. However, here's 17 things you've done wrong. And it's like, okay.
That completely contradicts what I've just said.
Yeah. And at that point, the whole sandwich doesn't work anymore. Because it's got to be genuine when you do that.
Yeah. And I think the sandwich, the positive bit on the outside can't be contradicted by the middle bit.
Yeah.
Like if I was giving feedback about maths, right? Yeah. I said, wow, your maths teaching was fantastic. And then I immediately told them something that was terrible about that maths teaching. It's like the first bit's now a lie. So what you should do is pick out something that was genuinely good and unaffected by the negative thing. Yeah. I thought you had
lovely hair.
Those heels and that skirt look great.
Oh God,
that's fantastic. I'll tell you what, so good that the policy now in school is going to be that everyone has to wear these heels and these skirts.
God, you know what? It makes me cringe even you saying that.
But that's what happened at this school. Well, we don't know. We're assuming that was the heels and skirts. But something like that with the uniform. But what it has to be if you're doing the negative sandwich. I like it sounds nice. I know. A positive sandwich.
I know, but it's wrong.
Is if you all right, whatever. It's wrong. Dylan said it. It's wrong. He agrees, so it's wrong.
No, I've said it. What's a ham sandwich? Is it ham bread ham? I don't think so.
Blooming should be. The bread's the worst
More
bit.
ham.
Yeah, more ham. This is great. But anyway, just to summarize, it should be that you pick something out that's genuinely positive, that you actually think it's not just a game. Oh, I really like the way you book report, and your starters were fantastic. In the main lesson, I just wonder what happened here with this bit, and then you have your negative. But at the end of the lesson, you really pulled them all back. And
This was crap.
This bit in the middle, shocking if you ask me. But I've not finished my sandwich, so here's something nice.
I want some more ham, please.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Okay, so absolutely right. But in workload, very quickly, last two things.
Yep.
Second to last, workload. How is that managed in a good school? What can we do? Because the job is hard.
Actively.
We've got lots to do, right? We've got lots to do in our role. We can't suddenly just say there's, oh, okay, just don't plan English. Well, no, I need some English lessons. So what does it look like effectively in a school, knowing that we have a high workload? How can it be managed effectively?
First of all, it's acknowledged. And I don't mean the classic. And
Well done.
No, not even that. Oh God, I hate this one. It cringes me out, and nice people do it, and I know they don't mean anything by it, and we've said it before, which is, go on, it's 5 o'clock, go home. Go home, you rascal. Go on, go home.
Oh, you are the person in charge of why I'm here.
Yeah. Can I not mark it? No. Go home, though. Go on. It's 5
When can I
o'clock.
mark it? Oh, stop it, you.
Just get it done.
Just get it done.
Just
Go
get it done.
home.
Go home.
Go
You're
home.
still here. What are you doing?
I've got them marked by tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the fake. That's the fakeness again, isn't it? It's that playing the game of positive sandwich, playing the game of I'm supposed to tell them to not work too much, but I'm not going to reduce it. So good schools are active in the reduction of workload.
Okay.
So they will monitor it. There has to be something in place to
More
actually
workload for
monitor
someone
it. Yeah, okay. Employ someone to do it, or as the head teacher. That's part of your workload now. Monitor it. Do something about it when it gets too much. Don't just do the thing that a lot of schools do. Is they go, oh yeah, it is bad, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, it is bad. Let's have a meeting about it next term. And then the term after, we'll think about implementing it. And hopefully by the term after that, you've forgotten about it because we've implemented 7 other things since then. No, what we'll do is we'll implement 7 other things, then we'll get rid of one of those things.
A good thing is time costing, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a good way to do it. It's like, okay, if you're going to, you have to have a baseline of it takes you X amount of time to plan lessons, right? If you're going to introduce something that literally adds an hour a week, time costing would be you'd have someone look at it and say, okay, we need to save an hour somewhere else. If we can't save an hour somewhere else, then we're not introducing it. And you have to be bolshy to do that because quite often things are introduced with the creeping shadow of Ofsted. Yeah. So you saying, okay, no, we're not going to do it because of workload, is you essentially as an SLT saying, no, we're not going to make our curriculum better. So where's the line for you? Because you have to say, no, we're not going to make things better because of workload.
Yeah.
Where's the line?
I don't know. You've got to be smart with it, I guess, haven't you? This is where it just takes really good managers to be able to time cost and also like cost it based on how much impact it will have. And also just everything else that already exists in your school. Just every now and then reevaluate them maybe and be like, how much this is costing us like 2 hours a week on average for staff. How much impact is this really having? Yeah. Because this other thing I want to bring in is going to have way more impact. It's really good. Okay, let's swap them. Yeah. I think it is just down to good management. Yeah.
There's no easy answer. No. And I think it's easy sometimes with our podcast when we sit chatting to be like, aren't we putting the worlds to rights really easily? But I think this is a really big problem that a lot of really good leaders or really good heads have where they actively know, because you're saying, don't just know it. Well, there is a problem where heads know there's a problem, but there is not an easy solution because the easy solution, and I say this, the only solution is to do less. That's what I always say. Yeah. And it's easy for me to say that because me doing less means what? There's less planning. We don't have an English lesson on Friday. We don't have a maths curriculum.
Because everything we're already doing already feels so important.
Exactly. I'm already doing what I need to do. That's why I'm doing it. Yeah. So I suppose, I don't know.
Someone online, I'll just finish with this. When, again, talking about the whole question about all this stuff, talking about workload, and he was saying that he worked in a really bad school in the past, really, really bad, and his mental health was terrible. Yeah. And then he started refusing to do all these extra things. And I'm not doing it anymore. He's fed up with it. I'm not doing a club anymore. No, stuff your club. Because it's one of those schools where it is voluntary. Yeah. And a great side effect, a win-win situation really for good schools, is that he was saying that when he worked in a positive school. He was actually really happy to give up his time to do a club because he felt trusted and respected and he wanted to give something back to the school because he really felt valued there. And isn't that funny? Like how much of emotional reactions we have to stuff. It's like in the other school, ironically, they got less out of him even though they were trying to work him harder.
Such a good point.
He didn't do the club and now he's doing the club.
Why are you a teacher?
The money. I'm joking. I'm trying to be the worst answer possible. I'm a teacher because 2 reasons. Yep. I absolutely love teaching, as in I love seeing people learn things. I just like helping people.
That's why I do the podcast. You learn so much. Guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the second thing is, I really like the autonomy. I like having a day where every day is a bit different. I don't really know what's going to happen other than there's, the lessons.
You're going to deliver stuff, but the children.
Yeah, but it's all every different because I have hated a job that I had before where I was just I knew my whole week already. I'm going to be doing this.
Putting beans on the shelf.
Putting beans on the shelf. I'm going to scan customers things. And I just didn't like that, and other people loved it. Yeah. But it wasn't for me. So they're the two things.
And I completely agree. I'm a teacher because I did a week when I graduated, when I didn't know what I wanted to do. I did a week in London in a recruitment firm, in an office.
Oh, did you?
No, I told you this.
No, I don't know.
I did a week. I probably told you, probably forgot. I did a week. Well, I say I did a week. I was lined up to do a week.
You said you did a week 4 times, mate.
I did a week. I've had a baby, all right? I got to Tuesday lunchtime.
Yeah.
And I walked into the guy who owned it, nice guy. And I was just like, nah, it's not for me. Because all you had to do all day was pick up the phone, cold call people with jobs, right? You were trying to sell jobs. You were a headhunter. You're trying to sell jobs in IT. I knew nothing about IT. So I'm trying to go, yeah, it's a C# job. Yeah, just next to the D key. I don't know what I'm talking about. Like,
that's a coding language.
It's JavaScript and orange peel, whatever. So I'm trying to sell IT jobs, cold calling people.
Yeah.
Because I get a commission every time we place someone in a job.
Yeah.
And like the base salary was rubbish, and you just basically all day phone. Proper like city like job with 8 other people around you on the phone. I was like, no, can't do it. And teaching was always this job where I thought, okay, not only can I have an impact, I feel like I have an impact because it's in my control to make it, I can teach children to read. How good is that? You can help someone learn to read. Like that's unreal when you think about it. I can help someone to enjoy maths. Like that's so powerful to me to be able to be in a position where I'm like, okay, you're going to start with me and you don't like maths. And after a year, you're going to love doing maths and you are going to be better at doing maths and you're going to have an outlook in the future where you think you can do maths. Fred again.
Fred's back, baby. Fred's back. No,
but that is why.
Yeah.
And I fear, and I've said this before when we talked about why we're striking, you're absolutely right, because everything that's being eroded in a profession is everything that makes it good. It's the autonomy. It's the trust. You're a professional. You're going to get on with your job and do the things that are important to you. You're being ground down. You're not going to go the extra mile. I will be really honest right now. I don't go anywhere near as far in this job as I did when I was 1, 2, 3 years experience. Nowhere near as far. And I put that down to 2 things. One was the environment that I worked in for a few years. And 2 is that it's the chronic underfunding from the government. And I don't just mean my pay. I mean the underfunding of the entire thing. I mean, if you worked in a private company and they squeezed funding as much as has been squeezed in education, you would feel it around you. I want to get that across to people as to why we're striking. If you were suddenly squozed so much where there were layoffs and you didn't have the right thing to do, and now you're doing 3 jobs instead of 1 because they got rid of some people, and actually the roof's leaking but they can't fix it because they've got to get, you would notice that and it would affect your life, and that's what's happening in teaching. And not only is it then just, I'm not being horrible to people who work in office jobs, but that's affecting your office job where the world will go on if Virgin Media can't ring someone in a day. This is affecting like the livelihoods of children.
The next generation.
Who will lead this country at some point. So it's really disheartening, and I'm just worried that all of this mixed in with I think the control we have from what we talked about, management and external factors in the school, with what's happened with the government over the last 13 years, I'm really worried.
Yeah, I agree.
Bye.
That's my contribution. No, I do. I was very interested in what you were saying there, but I fully agree. And I think it would be really nice to hear from you guys because almost definitely, like we finished our last episode and we thought, we didn't mention this one thing. There's probably a few things we've not really mentioned that you might have been thinking and screaming at the screen or whatever through this episode. Please write to us because we'd love to hear what is it that's made your experiences good or bad in schools.
And if you don't work in a school, are we being a bit dramatic? Is this just the same everywhere? Is this what we see? I've been listening to Adam Kay's book, This Is Going to Hurt, an ex-doctor who's like a TV comedian writer. Sorry, Aiden hates it when I mess with the microphone. Who wrote a memoir a few years ago. And it is horrendous being a doctor, like the workload and stuff. It's 5 times worse than being a teacher. Yeah. So all this, these 37 episodes we've had, times that by 5, and the doctor can't do a podcast. He's working 24-hour shift.
Yeah.
So
put it into perspective sometimes, doesn't it? Yeah, for sure. But where can they get to us? How can they write to us, Dylan?
Find us on Instagram, always the best place. Teach, Seek, Repeat podcast. Guys, I asked for some Q&As recently, and we've got them all. We didn't have time today, but I'm banking them and we will be using them. So every time I ask for a Q&A and I don't ask it, don't think, oh, there's no point. There is, because they're going in a bank. Okay. So keep asking us questions and send us some lovely stories. When we eventually get time to stop moaning, we will go through them.
And also enjoy the memes Dylan's been creating.
I'm making memes.
We'll talk about them next week.
Go on, go to our Instagram and like my memes, please. I enjoy them.
Good. Well, I hope you enjoyed the episode. Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.